Call this meeting to order. It is Thursday, April 16th, 2026, 5:30 p.m. We are at Columbus Elementary. Before we get started officially, I'd like to thank Principal Reyes. Thank you for hosting us. Thank your staff and having all of us here and having a delicious meal, a wonderful show. We didn't get to have the show last year, so it was really neat to have it this year. So thank you so much for putting that together for us. Mr. Kroll, if I could get a roll call of members, please.
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Johnson,
Present.
Mrs. Paez,
Present.
Mrs. Crumley,
Present.
Mr. Orozco, present, Mr. Kroll, present.
To Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Okay, on to approval of agenda. I believe we have a couple of changes to the agenda as requested earlier in the week by myself. We are moving items 8F, H, and I to the action items portion of the agenda to be recorded as item 10G, H, and I for purposes of the minutes. Are there any other changes to the agenda?
Madam President, there is not.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I make that motion?
I'll second that.
Mr. Kroll?
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Johnson,
Yeah.
Mrs. Paez,
Yes.
Mr. Orozco, yes, Mrs. Crumley,
Yes.
Mr. Kroll, yes.
On to reports. Quarter 2 report for Deming Cesar Chavez Charter High School.
For this item, we're gonna have Mr. Masters come share updated financial reports or information. Yes, no? Is that okay? Over there, right over there, Mr. Masters, is where we put that, so it'll be nice and close to the podium, just so we could see. And Ms. Padron, sorry, I a little blindness there, Padron. My apologies. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yes.
Very much. So this will be the first semester report for Deming Cesar Chavez, and thank you again for having us over here today. Our Charles,
I'm pulling it up right now.
get that for the government book. At our 40th day, we had 153 students. 20 of those were AB and 7 C level children with disabilities. On our 80th day, we jumped up to 166, increased our AB to 22, 7 C level and 1 D level. The attendance rates for July, which was only 1 week, we did have 74%. August, 86%, September, 89%, and then November, December, it's been up to 91%. We had several changes this first semester. We had 5 new staff members and 1 retirement. I'll let you read those there. For our last year's graduation, we had 49 total graduating. 34 were our normal regular day students, and then 15 were from our adult learning academy. So the ones that were outside their 4-year. We have professional development, and just to let you know, kind of our governing council piece, they've met all of their annual training hours required. They were able to attend the PCSM annual conference in Burnfield, so that's where they got all their hours. We had 1 change to our membership for the governing council. That is Ana Maria Sandoval. I believe we informed you on first, and she replaced a vacancy that by Ms. Pena. We had a few major purchases. things that were over $10,000 that we need to report to Dayton Public Schools. We had the Edgenuity online software for 15,840. We had the school ability software for 38,000. We also did the south face fence. It is now wrought iron and it has wrought iron gates, locks, everything. So if you haven't been able to drive by it, it changed a lot, taking that old chain link out and putting up the nice wrought iron. It looks really, really nice. And then our NMCA risk charge for all of the special coverage, risk coverage insurance was $63,000 this year. For parent and community activities, we have the food bank preparation. It's every fourth Monday of the month. We partner with Dayton Public Schools on that as well. And we've also been doing the sunshine food delivery, and that's the first Thursday of every month. We also have His Kids Daycare and Help New Mexico Pre-K. And we stand for any questions you may have.
Any questions by the board? No. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
On to superintendent reports and updates. Mr. Olgamuth.
Madam President, as always, it's great to be a Wildcat and, great to be out here in Columbus today. Gonna go ahead and do my superintendent activity portion first because I want to invite Mr. Reyes and Mr. Aguirre up to come tell us a little bit about some of our student council members that we have here. So Mr. Reyes and Mr. Aguirre, come tell us what we got here.
I should let Mr. Aguirre speak. Student council this year, when I first came into my position, student council was not something that I remembered that I needed to do. Ms. Lucy Trejo from Deming High School called me saying, Mr. Reyes, we need the student council from Columbus to come and participate at our 5th annual student council gathering at the high school. So that's where Mr. Aguirre jumped in and said, you know what, I'm gonna do it. So I couldn't think of anyone better to get this done. I'm very proud of him for stepping in and sponsoring this activity. And just everything that he has done with the students, they have accomplished so much. I am very proud of them, and here they are.
Mr. Aguirre, come on. Mr. Aguirre, come on.
Pásale.
Well, Mr. Aguirre, you don't know. Those are my kids. I listen like the half because they didn't come, they couldn't come. But we are so proud of what we did in the last 6 weeks when we started doing the Stuco and how they committed to participate and go to the high school, and we had a good participation. Alison, she will give you a welcome message in Spanish, and Jalen will do the same in English. ¿Vale? Yes, sir.
Estimados miembros del Consejo de Educación de las Escuelas Públicas de Deming, nosotros los miembros del Consejo Estudiantil de la Escuela Primaria de Columbus les damos la más cordial bienvenida a nuestra institución. Queremos asegurarles que su trabajo es altamente apreciado por todo cuanto hacen posible que nuestra educación continúe en nuestra escuela. Recientemente hemos participado en la 5ª conferencia anual de los consejos estudiantiles en la high school junto con otras escuelas y hemos tenido un buen desempeño, habiendo ganado el primer lugar con el bastón del espíritu, Spirit Stick, el cual reflejó nuestro compromiso y dedicación. Gracias por su apoyo a estos eventos. Esperamos que hayan disfrutado de una agradable comunidad y que su reunión brinda muchos y positivos frutos en beneficio de todos los niños y jóvenes de nuestras escuelas. Gracias. Dear members of the Deming Public Schools Board of Education, we, the members of Columbus Elementary School Student Council, extend our warmest welcome to our institution. We wish to assure you that your work is highly appreciated for everything you make possible to ensure that our education continues at our school. We recently participated in the fifth annual high school student council conference alongside other schools and performed exceptionally well, winning first place for the best spirit stick, an achievement that reflected our commitment and dedication. Thank you for your support to these events. We hope you enjoyed a pleasant meal and that your meetings bring some many positive results for the benefit of all the children and youth in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
We take a picture with you all? Let's take a picture. That's
That's what you're making.
This is a better direction for a picture. Come on, cause it's gonna.
There you go.
Well,
All right, that's much better. Big smile. All right, thank you guys so much.
I have something. Hold on. We're gonna get one. Get one. There we go. You're welcome very much.
thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Welcome very much. Everybody get one? Yeah. There you go. Thank you. Get one. I guess I gotta get some blush on. Here, the picture for the year.
The you?
The year.
Me. All mad.
Hey. Okay. Let me move through the rest of my reports. Just update on our transportation and turf regulations. I know we talked about this as a regulation in one of our workshops. We have decided as a district, we're going to implement option A, and option A is basically the same process that we have been using in granting our exceptions annually. This is the draft that we shared with you of that. So we're going to continue with business as usual relative to those turfs for cross school, cross boundary zone transportation. We're going to look at that form to make sure the different qualifying conditions we have in there are appropriate. We may trim those down, but in essence, we're going to do that again for this next school year. And then at this time next year, we'll revisit for school year 27-28 to see if the regulation needs to be altered. In addition to that, for our K-12 transportation here throughout Deming Public Schools in Deming and down here south, all that K-12 transportation is going to remain the same. We are, of course, looking at our pre-K transportation, since that's a separate grant, but our K-12 transportation will remain the same. In addition, if you go back to the slideshow, Charles, we have hosted at Smith Elementary School some after-school supervision for the children of our employees. We're going to continue to offer that. However, it's going to be a separate form, as not to get confused with the student turf. We're going to continue to offer that, except it will be at Baton Elementary. It's a little more centralized when our buses transfer kids. And we've got a bigger and better space to have there. In addition, we're going to have some after-school programs at Baton, so our kids can engage in that. Any clarifying questions or more information, board members, on our turf and transportation?
Questions, comment?
Thank you, ma'am. Second, we always try to bring you a little bit update on enrollment. Again, we've passed our 2 official count days. So our goal for the rest of the school year is to retain strong attendance or strong enrollment. So we have strong enrollment at the start of next year. The schools are starting their returning or the existing student registration online. We encourage all parents to make sure they contact their school to engage in that. And hopefully around the start of May, we'll start our new student registration. That's students that are new to our district. But since last month, we've just seen a little uptick of about 6 students. So that's a positive. Any clarifying questions on enrollment?
Nope.
Okay. The next one, Mr. Turner. When we glance at this, it might look a little different. These are the vacancies that we currently have on our website. We pulled some down for budgeting. We're fixing to repost new ones for next year as we go to our job fairs. But on April there, Charles. So it's going to be again, as we're saying, we're transitioning there. So again, we're kind of our same amount that we've had, but
Posting 40 today.
okay, we're posting 40 vacancies today. That's great because I know that you and your Miss Nips's team will be attending a UTEP job fair this week, tomorrow, and then NMSU job fair next Tuesday. I'm probably going to swing by the NMSU job fair just to get an idea of the types of candidates that are coming across out of our universities.
Is that
these
something
days.
we've done before, or is that new?
Ms. Nips, I believe we've
Done
done,
that before?
I believe we've done this before, and I would say this, what I know from my perspective is that Ms. Nips's team is always out at some kind of fair pretty regularly. So any fair you go to around here, there's gonna be a great Deming Public Schools representation there. Any questions about staffing? Okay, and of course, why are we posting 40? What's going on with 40? We just got through with our budgeting and staffing meetings with all of our departments and schools, trying to figure out exactly what we need to post for next year. We want to post now so we can have access to any potential employees first.
That's not all teachers, sorry.
And that's not all teachers. Yes, not all teachers. That says up here we go with this picture again. Again, the budget meetings, National School Board Conference, sort of with the superintendent, did that last night here in Columbus at my bi-monthly thing at event at La Fonda. And then was connected to the superintendent with Bell and got to spend some time with the board at the National School Board Association conference. And so it's been a very busy month, but it's really great to, brings joy to me when I can come out to schools and see kids, and that's why it's been I've been super excited to be out here in Columbus these last 3 days because I get to see a lot of students, a lot of families. Okay, that's all I have for my reports and updates, Madam President.
Okay, before we move on to public comment, just want to say thank you for arranging us to go to the National School Board Conference. I probably said that wrong, missed a word, but I really enjoyed it. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I felt like it was a really good experience, and we were able to bring back things that maybe we can potentially use here in our district. So getting those broader outcomes from all over the United States was really informative. So
And one more thing before we move on, I made my note here, didn't read it. Also, as you know, our powerlifting team did very well in Albuquerque. Repeat state champion, Jesus Olera. I didn't share with you, but last month, our Skills USA, that's some of our CTE kids, a group of them, the Skills USA is the gold chapter of distinction, only 4 in New Mexico. What we're going to work to do in May, and then as we think about next our meeting cycle next spring, we'll want to make sure that we bring as many of those students in May to be recognized by the board as we can possibly bring. So I make sure I wanted to share that. Okay, my apologies now.
sounds good. On to public comment. Is there anyone signed up for public comment?
Madam
No.
President, there are no public comments.
Okay, on to consent agenda.
Make a motion for approval.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Kroll?
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Johnson,
Yes.
Mrs. Paez,
Yes.
Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
Mrs. Crumley,
Yes.
Mr. Kroll, yes.
Thank you. On to discussion items. Clear bag backpacks, state and national practices. Superintendent Waldmuth.
Madam President, members of the board, here in Deming, we're always looking for ways to, have a safe, supportive, and collaborative school environment. And there's many ways that we can promote safety. And this, the board has been great in supporting a lot of investments to do that. And, those will start coming to fruition as we move throughout this next school year. I do know in the past there was a discussion about clear backpacks and bags here in Deming Public Schools. I know I did view a little bit of that. I can't remember if that was in the last year or two, but I wanted to bring that back as a discussion here in the context of this or anything else that may be related to safety. So in some research that we did, most of the clear backpack and bag policies that are existing in New Mexico are tied to athletic events. So when you go and you search online, that is the primary implementation of clear bag and clear backpack policies for those after school activities and athletic events. I found two schools in New Mexico that had implemented clear backpack regulations during the regular day. That was Raton and Cimarron. They're both up north, relatively small school districts. However, I kept finding information that they had it, and then I went to go look in their student handbooks or their regulations and policies about, hey, describing what that looked like at those schools, and that simply did not exist. The most recent implementation or adoption of a clear bag and backpack rule was Albuquerque Public Schools. Just implemented a backpack rule this school year for five of their middle schools in a particular region of town. And then Del Norte High School will begin to implement, that's in Albuquerque as well, will begin to implement clear backpacks next school year. Again, when I was looking to find, hey, what is this, the actual procedure related to this, was unable to find any. However, and again, this is probably a little out of sequence. Most of the clear bag policies for athletics and activities are based on UNM and NMSU's policies, which I think we're all probably familiar with as we've gone to a game. But for us here, I was able to find some good information, on kind of a national level on what some procedures are. So really, in summary, the common rules for all clear backpacks are they've got to be transparent on all sides. You can have a non-clear pouch. They usually define the size there for phones, wallet, other hygiene or personal items. And of course, there was typically commonly exceptions for your instrument cases or your athletic bags or any kind of bag you might have to have for a medical need. And that was really a lot from Dallas. These ones here, again, some more design restrictions. This talks about the same type of thing. However, you can have some mesh. This was really saying you can't have a padded back. Some of these bags have, padded backs you can't see through. So this was just kind of another variation of that. I think, Charles, on one of these scrolls, I think this scroll. So before we show some examples, here are some, go up, Charles, a little bit. Here are, again, the common elements across all the policies that I was able to find online, right? They defined what clear was. They allowed a pouch of some kind. Again, those exceptions I just talked about. Enforcement, subject to search at any time. If you're not compliant, always a progressive discipline. And then, the idea of it is something that a district is going to do. There's equity considerations because people haven't really purchased clear bags. And so, some districts purchase them themselves. Now, Charles, I want you to go back up and click on the one that says the Dallas ISD. You'll see it kind of in the first one. There you go. This should take us to the Dallas ISD page. And then we'll talk about cost. So this is from Dallas ISD. Again, if you scroll down, it kind of has an FAQ there on all those different questions that folks might have. Okay, so that was also the same thing for if you go back at Charles and find one that says Killeen, Texas. Yeah, this was more of an infographic. It's going to be it's not. Yeah, I linked the wrong one. But yeah, just had the kind of the infographic of what was permitted and not. And then go back one more and do the Corpus Christi one, please. Corpus is probably on the top, Mr. Turner, next to the right there. And again, this is again a graphic from Corpus Christi ISD, same type of FAQs, a lot of commonalities. These are all in Texas. These schools are all in Texas. Let's go back and have a little mention of cost here. And I know we have some examples. So, costs can range wildly depending on how much you buy in bulk or what kind of bag that you buy. That first cost, that's our current enrollment, a little over 4,800. Albuquerque's bag they recently bought for the middle schools. It's kind of hard to tell what kind of quality those were or size online. Because of the quantity they bought, they got them at about $15 a piece. If we were to move forward with something like this eventually, and right, $15 a piece would cost us that much. And of course, Mr. Turner has a couple of examples, I think, from the previous presentation. Now I don't know how inflation works since these were bought to you all, but this one at the time was a $30 per person bag, and this was a $35 per bag. Again, these are your we'll call them the Amazon retail prices, and not necessarily a bulk. But you can see these are clear all the way through. They don't really have this is a little bit of mesh. This has no mesh at all, except on the sides and clear on the back. No padding. If obviously the more expensive bag, the higher quality of bag, the more expensive it's going to be. So just an estimate, if we were to consider, if we went through with this policy and considered a $30 bag, we'd be at about $144,000. Okay, so that is the information I was able to find on clear backpacks. Again, I know this was a discussion of the board before. And I don't know, all members were part of the board at that time. I'll be happy to answer any questions or take any feedback on this, or feedback on direction or additional steps that you'd like me to consider taking.
I have a question. Sorry, you can go ahead. I did have a comment, because I did some research myself about backpacks. I believe there was a time, wasn't there, Ms. President, that we did have clear backpacks here in the Deming district?
Not that I remember.
Not that you remember. The one thing I do know is that they're not very sturdy. They're very difficult, very flimsy. It is, even if you buy a good quality one. Another consideration is there's not a lot of places to buy them, especially here in Columbus. I think it would be difficult for families to be able to purchase one, because kids are losing their backpacks all the time. It would be the replacement. So those are the concerns that I have.
So I'm curious, are there statistics that this has improved the, like, how many unauthorized items we get in the schools? Is there data to back a reason to have them?
Member Johnson, I would share that when you do go search online, right, it's sort of a mixed element. And what you'll always find online about school safety, that it's a series of layered mitigation techniques. I mean, you've seen this clear backpack. Somebody
inside for hygiene.
Right,
They can have that.
right.
The same
So correct. So, it is mixed. Some school districts, say it's been helpful. Very likely that's part of a whole layered system of things. A clear backpack alone, is really not gonna, if that's the only thing you did for safety, that's not gonna get you, terribly far down the safety road. Like I said, I know we are working to put, this district already has put in secure vestibules, all those types of things, security guards, SROs. We approved having the canines come in. I think things working together is helps to what create the best safety conditions on a campus. Whether clear, with anything, right? Metal detection system, clear back policies, like, sometimes you find both sides of that argument. But what I can say definitely is that it has to be part of a system.
We have most of the other parts of the system though, Fred, we're in the process of.
And that's a great, Member Johnson, that's a great point, right? We have them in process. We have not had a chance to fully implement them yet. So, from I think, not my perspective as superintendent, but my perspective as, a person who lives in Deming, right? And as you all as residents, here, that we want to do everything we can to keep our kids safe. I think from a procedural perspective, implementing what we've, what we're gonna implement, seeing how that pans out, and then figuring out, okay, we've done this. Here's our new stuff we're doing. What's working well, what's not, and then what next type of steps do we take relative to that? I'll leave it. I'll stop there and then see what rest of the board has to share.
Any other comment or questions?
I just think, especially when you start looking at this process of trying to get kids into a building
Mhm.
quickly and efficiently, there's gonna be a bog down when they're going through bags. And if you got 6 bags that are going off at the same time, or 6 bags within a short amount of kids, you gotta pull those kids off to the side, and then you're gonna have to find 6 administrators or find however many administrators to go through those bags. And to go around to dig around in a bag that's dark in color and you don't know what you're sticking your hands into. It becomes a safety issue for employees. And then just the efficiency of trying to get those kids through with the clear backpack. Something goes off, you can kind of take a look to that backpack and see like, oh, it's this, it's that. You need to look further. I think it's just from the standpoint, like we were talking about, that there's layers, right? And this is one of those layers, because what I don't want to happen is that it gets to the point where it's 8:15 and the bell rings at 8:20, and we still got 600 kids that they gotta go through the metal detectors, and the principal just turns off the metal detector or just sends them around because it's too much of an inconvenience anymore. Right? And so then that mistake is huge, because if that turns out to be something else, then the liability sits on us. And so I just approach it, with that, and it's a layered system. It's not a prevent all. We're not going to be able to prevent. I mean, there's always a workaround. And if there's a will, there's a way. But it becomes a situation where if we implement something like this, it's for the safety of the kids, and it's not, yes, there's a cost involved, and yes, we can look at that cost initially, but we have kids that walk around with, expensive cell phones and expensive shoes. This is just another piece. And if you need one, you will buy one. And if there is a situation where we're clear backpacks, I guarantee you that there's going to be people out there that are going to be selling those backpacks. So it's not a situation of supply, not having the supply. The supply will be there. I think it's just more of a layered system for the schools, and then just to help with that process. So
my thoughts on it are, we do so much already. We've taken so much from our kids. We're asking a lot from our kids. And I just don't think that this would be a good thing, because if we decide to implement, then I would say the wrestling team, the football team would all have to have clear bags too. If we're going to do it, it would be for everybody. And so to me, it's not practical. One of the biggest things that many women have mentioned it to me is the hygiene products, the feminine products. It's, at that age there, it's kind of hard to hide that stuff in a clear bag. You know what I'm saying? Yes, you can put it in another bag, and that's a big issue. We just purchased an amazing system that's supposed to detect, almost anything. Obviously, people figure ways to hide things, but let's see how that works. And if we have to implement it to Red Mountain or wherever else, we're going to have to do it too. But I'm going to be straight honest with you. I'm not for it. I'm not for the clear backpacks. I think it would be okay if we have functions like the football game, the basketball game. I think there's a balance, but not for going to school.
Madam President?
No, I agree. I mean, I think I agree with Mr. Kroll in that we just made pretty significant commitments to the weapons detection system at our secondary schools. I think we were going to start with that we haven't implemented yet. So there hasn't been any time to gather data from those systems to see whether or not another layer is necessary. I'm not necessarily 100% closed off to the idea. I just think that we don't have the data for something we just purchased yet. I agree with Mr. Orozco. I also have concerns that if staff isn't trained to be effective in the use of the equipment, I don't want it sitting somewhere like the donated metal detectors from however many years ago that we talked about. I don't want that equipment sitting somewhere unused. We took a lot of time to discuss that equipment, observed it in action, made a significant financial investment in it. And I think I would like to see that first implemented. I also share my fellow board members' concerns about privacy and dignity. Kids don't have lockers anymore. There's already going to be, I guess, a feeling of unease maybe going through a new weapons detection system to go to school every day. There might be kids here who've never ever even done that. So unless you've traveled in an airport, unless you've gone to a major game somewhere, you're not used to feeling violated like that. And also with, the sporting events, the way I look at those is I doubt that the college students participating in those events are using clear bags. It's just for the patrons, to keep that activity as safe as possible. Mm-hmm. So I'm not even opposed to using clear bags for that. I think I went to one football game somewhere in New Mexico where they didn't allow bags at all. And it was fine. I mean, or you go through some sort of a detection machine and it's fine, and it's kind of more of the norm now. But I think subjecting our students to clear bags is too much for right now. That's my thought on it, but not necessarily closed off to looking at it again if the weapons detection systems are not enough.
Let me just share one final thought here, Madam President. Yes, again, I agree with kind of everything I've heard here, right? This kind of, layered mixed bag. And I do also want to share that as leadership team, right, making sure we can have that fast enough flow through in the open gate weapons detection systems. Kind of been working with finance to say, hey, as we kind of get our open gate people here to do an on-campus kind of, actual live action, we're reserving some of safety and security money that we got from the PED, just in case we need to buy some additional sets immediately. So we're not waiting until August, September. So it's possible in July you may see an action item to say, hey, we need a couple more sets, right? So I think that's a little in response to the flow through, but I definitely hear what we're saying. I think what we'll do as a team is, we're going to try to get these weapons detection systems launched, make sure we have enough. We'll have a conversation, continue to have a conversation about possibly at games, because that seems to be something that is the norm throughout the state, even in public schools. And of course, we'll also, because of the weapons detection system we purchased, it's also very portable. So we'll be able to use that in addition as a mitigating element at our large events, our large after-school public events as well.
Do we know what the timeline is for implementing that system? Is it in the fall or?
So the plan for the actual live run through, we're waiting to hear back from can't think of his name, and Benny was able to make it this evening. We're gonna try to do some kind of run through in May before we go, so we can kind of have an idea of what's going on here, and do it in August. Now we got to confirm that May date, but we have a little video that I just got yesterday that one of our DHS students made, kind of explaining how to prepare and be ready to do that. So I got that. We got to communicate the new search policy out. So our goal is to kind of have a test run in May to kind of get to the point of what Mr. Roscoe was saying about, do we have enough way to blow these kids through? If not, we need to make another purchase or two.
Any other questions or comments on this topic? On to action items, consideration to accept the fiscal year 2025 final audit report, Automio Accounting Group.
Mr. Adcock, if you want to introduce our.
Madam President, members of the board, superintendent, this is Scott from Automio Accounting Group. He has done our audit this year, ending June 30th, 2025. This is their third year doing our audit, and we have one more year on our RFP. And we've actually contracted and started for next year. So we just finished one and we're starting another one. Scott, if you want to go through your explanation.
Your own. Gonna go. And I know I gave you all your books, previous.
We do have a book.
And then I was gonna go over that. Charles got some information here, but we got one book, we could share if down there having a hard time, sir?
Okay, well, good evening, board president, superintendent. My name is Scott Eliason, partner with Automio Accounting Group, and I'm just gonna go through a few items within the financial statements, and I'm just gonna talk a bit here in generalities about the audit. So the state audit rule requires that after the audit report is released by the state auditor, that the auditor is to go ahead and present the results of the audit to governance in an open meeting. So here I am. And I'll just talk about, so these financial statements, 120 pages long, right? There's a lot of information here. It does include some items related to the charter school. They're in here, they're discreetly presented up front. And then any audit findings from the charter school, because they're administratively attached to you and the state audit rule says they have to be also included in here. So there are a couple of findings are in here, along with the district has a couple of findings, and we'll go over that in a bit. I would say a couple of takeaways here. There's 3 reports that we issue that are included in here and signed off with our firm name. And the first is the independent auditor's report. And in that report, it's where our audit opinion is on the financial statements. And I would say that a couple of takeaways here would be that in that report, there's the management's responsibilities, which are to design an effective internal control structure and take responsibility for the audit. And the financial statement, I take responsibility for the financial statements. And the auditor has a responsibility to issue an audit opinion. And that's based on the audit evidence, the test work. And so our test work is things like sampling, confirmation. So we'll confirm all the cash accounts, for example. We'll scope at different sizes, dollar thresholds and such. So there's a number of different tests we go through to ultimately issue the audit opinion, which is an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements themselves. There's a second report that talks about government auditing standards. And that's a 2-part report. It's on internal control. And the second part is on compliance and other matters. Any findings, they're just kind of listed in summary there. And then the last report, because the district has federal awards, and I think it was about $16 million this year. There's a federal awards audit opinion or opinion. And on that one, we also issue an unmodified clean opinion. 16 million is probably not going to be the number that you'll have this year because in 26, because in 25, it was some of the last of the ESSER funds. So I think that was probably $6 or $7 million that district got. So I think on a regular ongoing basis, it's probably going to be closer to 10, 11 million, unless the federal government has some big special awards they want to give to you. So a couple of other things. What causes this report to be 120 pages long is the district has lots of individual funds. So, of course, you got the general fund up front and so a couple of other large funds can go up front. And then there's a long series of footnotes. And then behind the footnotes is all the smaller funds. And the way that the funds are set up here in New Mexico and other places is based on a separate funding source. A lot of times we'll create a separate fund. So the district probably has, I don't know, Joe, what would you say, 50 funds?
50 to 60 funds.
50 to 60 funds. So every one of those funds has to be reconciled by accounting, make sure that things are posted properly to the different funds. Each fund has a balance sheet and income statement on it. So I think that probably absorbs a fair amount of accounting's time, to make sure that not only it's posted correctly, that they reconcile. And so I think it becomes quite a bit of work. And then also included here, there's a couple of schedules that are required by the state audit rule too. that get added in, like a schedule of deposits and pledge collateral and things like that also get added into the financial statements. So we'll just go ahead and go through a couple of items, then we'll talk about audit findings. So page 1 is the independent auditor's report. Has everybody read this? Stayed up late at night? It's good information. So it talks about in here, like just what I talked about, you know, the audit opinions themselves, you know, and it says the discreetly presented component unit. So what is that? Well, the discreetly presented component unit is your administratively attached Caesar chat to school. And so that's their information as required by the Public Education Department and the state auditor. Their information is just discreetly presented in here up front. They've got on the full accrual schedules, and then any audit findings are in the back. Caesar Chavez also issues a set of financial statements, not quite as large as this one, but they also have the same exact thing done. They don't have the federal program threshold, which is $750 for this year. Now it's going to be $1 million, $750 for 2025, but it moves up to $1 million. They don't meet that number, obviously. So their audit is a little bit is less work, but we still do a complete audit on their financial statements too. And so it says right there, in our opinion, the financial statements refer to present fairly in all material respects. The governmental activities, that's the full accrual statements, the discreetly presented component unit, major funds, and then the aggregate remaining fund information, which is the smaller funds. And then we also have an opinion on budgets for the general fund and a major special revenue fund. So that sort of covers the opinion. The other two parts I talked about, management's responsibility and auditor's responsibility. So we'll just, I think, we can go through every number here if I take a couple hours, but in the interest of time.
I don't think I would allow that.
If anybody's got any special questions on the numbers.
Oh my
And if you
goodness.
do, and you're up late at night and wait till the next morning and then reach out to Joe.
How about the
Somebody got any questions on the numbers? But I'll go
$750
ahead and just,
Oh,
let's go ahead.
oh, yeah.
Pass all this information.
That's 7 hours.
I want to mention one of
Yeah.
the accrual statements. So you have two types of statements in here. You've got full accrual statements, which has the capital assets, for which the district has quite a large number of capital assets. I mean, it's a big business. And then the debt, and then there's a pension liability in there and a retiree healthcare liability. And those numbers in the pension liability and the retiree healthcare liability, those are big numbers. But that's because the accounting standards board wants all the cost share employers to include it in their financial statements. And it's not an outlay that the district actually has to make, but it's to show the users that there is a cost to offering a pension plan, retiree healthcare plan. And if they're underfunded, that liability shows up in the cost share employer's financial statement. So all the school districts that participate in ERB, it shows up in their financial statements. The liability amount, it's the full rate up unfunded portion liability. So that big number shows up in there. In fact, I will just go there and see what it is. But it's gonna be a pretty big number. Yeah, $93 million for the prorated portion of the unfunded pension liability related to the district. And 12 million for the retiree healthcare prorated unfunded portion. So that gets pushed on your financial statements, but don't be scared by that liability because that's not something that you will have a cost outlay on. You're on a pay as you go system based on the rates and such. Back here, looks like we jumped towards the back, and this is a good place to start, findings and question cost. Unmodified or clean opinion on the district's financial statements, and also for the charter, clean opinion. We, these categories of internal control over financial reporting, material weaknesses, none, significant deficiencies, none, non-compliance material of financial statements, none. That's the same for both the district and the charter. So what's a material weakness? Material weakness is something that's of such a pervasive error within the financial statements that either is in the financial statements or could be in the financial statements based on the internal control structure and such. And then scroll down just a little bit, you'll see the federal awards and no material weaknesses, no deficiencies, unmodified opinion. And this education stabilization fund, which is what it's described as in the federal programs guidance that we go through. But here you know it as your ESSER funds. That was the big federal program. So if we just go on to the next page, this is where the findings start, okay? And for the district itself, it's what we would call an other non-compliance finding. And we can see that there's some, we pick some small samples of the School Personnel Act. So the state audit rule has probably a dozen different tests that we have to do for different areas, everything from are you making your ERB and RHCA contribution appropriately, timely, and the right amount, to, you know, procurement, travel and per diem, if you've got gas cards or purchasing cards, those would also be looked at and tested. There's, like I said, there's about a dozen different areas we look at. And the School Personnel Act is one of the areas that were required under the state audit rule to test. And we just noted that for the district, that there was some required training that didn't happen. And also, 1 of 6 employees tested that had teaching contracts. There was one that had a substitute teacher's license, and there was not appropriate notification to the state and getting a waiver for that. So the district does recognize that. You can see the response at the bottom. That HR does acknowledge the trainings and under the statute requirements under the statute cited above. So I think this is something the district will have work done and we'll take a look at it at this end of this fiscal year. And then the second finding, I hate to write findings like this. Budgetary compliance, you have millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars you account for in all these different functional budget areas by fund. And when we have a $96 budget variance and a $634 budget variance that is over the approved final adopted budget for bars. But state auditor says we've got to have it in your financial statements. So that covers the districts and the charter is also here. I don't really want to spend much time on theirs. They have the same 2 areas for which they had some training, things that need to also be done. And then on their budget, which is the next one, they had some larger budget variances. So in comparison, districts is pretty small. This is obviously bigger. You know, this, of course, the size of the charter is much smaller.
I have a question.
Something you worked on.
Whenever it says repeated and modified, what does that mean on the head?
That means that finding existed in the previous year.
So it's a continuing thing.
Continuation. And so you'll see, like, for example, 24 was the first year.
Oh, that's what that number means? Okay.
And then if we scroll back up and take a look at the districts, we can see the first year that those findings, 20, that's also the charters. But here, it's like
24 also.
repeated finding first in 24, and if you scroll back up 1, this may be also a repeated finding, and it is first year that was reported was in 24 also. So, you know, we'd like to see them clear the next year, but sometimes they take 2 years. Sometimes you don't even know that you have a deficiency until you get the audit report, and you're already halfway through the year. So sometimes they become like a 2-year cycle.
So realistically, Joe did a really good job.
I would say that, you know, from an accounting perspective, and I would say the same for Chris did a good job with accounting. There wasn't any, you know, things like that we see a lot of times where you have invoices that the purchase order gets approved after you get the goods and services. We didn't see anything like that. We saw appropriate controls where there was separate preparer and approver and those sorts of things. And another area that we see a lot of times is bank reconciliation. Mistakes can be made on the bank rec, but we did not note that in this year with either entities. So overall, I'd say that, good audit. Just a few things to work on, and I think, the teams, the accounting teams are doing a good job of ensuring things are done timely and accurately. And I'd open up to any questions anybody has or comments anybody has.
No, I think, comment wise, just Joe and his team do a phenomenal job. And I think the last several years, the district as a whole has done very well in audits and things like that. The thing that just bothers me, and it's just more from an individual perspective, is that 225,000 from, on the charter school. And it's a part of ours. And I think we take great pride in what we're trying to do. And to me, it doesn't sit well with me that kind of money is an audit finding. I know it's minuscule in the terms of things, but I still think that needs to be shored up. We need to do a better job. I know we've visited this before with other things, and so I just think that I want that shored up because it doesn't sit well with me.
And I agree. I do agree, especially because it is across multiple funds. It's a large amount of money. So
I think the new leader there at the charter school, Mrs. Padron, is gonna do an amazing job. She's gonna put everything back in order. And it's just gonna take a little time, so.
It's been 3 months, so.
yeah. Any other questions or comment on this topic? Mr. Adcock?
Madam President, members of the board, superintendent. I just wanted to point out a couple of things. Yes, those 2 findings that we had were repeat findings.
Mhm.
But they were different in that the School Personnel Act, for example, covers a lot of different things. And so it was a different video, it was a waiver that was different from what we had last year. What we had last year got cleaned up. What we had this year was something that was different on the School Personnel Act. We did fix that. As soon as we were notified that there was an issue, we did get that fixed. The same thing with the other audit finding with the budgetary thing. Now, we didn't overspend the budget on that fund. It wasn't in the correct function. So we were over in the function, not in the total budget. So.
Thank you.
Just to wanted to clarify that.
There's a cutoff point, isn't there, for which you can do bars?
In June, yes.
Can't do it like in July.
No.
Any other questions or comment? Thank you so much. On to consideration to approve budget adjustment requests. Oh, sorry. I have a motion to accept the fiscal year 2025 final audit report.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Mr. Kroll.
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Johnson?
Yeah.
Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mr. Orozco?
Yes.
Mrs. Crumley?
Yes.
Mr. Crow, yes.
Now we can.
Sorry, everyone. I had checked it off the agenda and had moved on. On to consideration to approve budget adjustment requests. Mr. Adcock.
So we have several, Madam President, members of the board, superintendent, we have several budget adjustment requests being submitted to you today. This is to help with the finding that we just talked about. The first one is number 3 is on our Title I. We're moving money over so that we could do the summer recovery, the summer programs that we do. So we're moving some budget to the salaries there. Number 4 and number 5 for operational kind of go together. Whenever we had our final SEG that was given to us in February, that ended up with a net increase of SEG that's coming into the district. So we had to do an increase bar, that's number 4. Number 5, we also had to do an increase bar because that same unit value applied to the charter school. And then at the charter school's operational flows through us, and we get 2% of the charter school's for the management that we do on that. So that's what, number 4 and 5 are. Number 6 for transportation, that's a rental. Again, we've brought you several of those over the last, several board meetings. Number 7 is an increase to our ROTC program. The Army pays us half of the salary for our ROTC instructors. We don't know at the beginning of the year what that is mandated to be, because it depends on the Army's calculation of their retirement versus what we should be paying them. That final number comes in the spring, and so I need to do an adjustment to bring that up for that. Number 8, the GO bond. We had a purchase right at the end of last year that we had budgeted for in this year. So we need to bring that down to what we actually have. Now, number 9 through 15, those are all going to be the same type of thing. They're a decrease bar. In April, whenever we're putting the budget together, we have to estimate what is our cash balance going to be as of June 30. So we have to take everything that we have and do an estimate of what that is going to be. These are where we had budgeted more than what we ended up with at that time, at the June 30. So we have to do a decrease bar to bring those back down so that we don't end up overspending. And it's because expenses ended up moving into one year. We ended up with something that we needed to do that wasn't foreseen. RFRs may not have been paid in the time that we thought it was. Those types of things is what causes these budget adjustments. With that, I stand for any question.
Any question or comment? Have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the bars. Listed.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Kroll?
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Johnson?
Yeah.
Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mrs. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Cole, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. On to consideration of approval of quote for high school laptop devices. Mr. Glickler.
President Conley, members of the board, Superintendent Wolgameth. This is a quote for 450 student laptops so that we can get new student devices for our incoming freshmen at early college high school and Deming High School in the coming year. This is a little different than previous quotes that you've approved in the past because it is a slightly different model. One of the challenges that we're having this year is finding computers that we can purchase that have parts available for them so they can be built and arrive in a timely fashion and at a good price. That has not been as easy as in past years due to various global factors, but we were, after some searching, able to find this device, which is the Dell 3140, for a reasonable price and a mostly comparable warranty to the one that we are already deploying at our high schools. The total is, what was it, $284,000. It's, with the warranty, $633.20 per unit. It seems like a pretty good device. We have several of them in district already because many of our elementary schools and middle schools are also ordering the same computer to replenish their student devices outside of the central refresh of the two high schools. With that, I stand for any questions.
Question or comment? Have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the quote for the high school 101 lots.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Mr. Kroll?
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Johnson?
Yeah.
Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mrs. Crumley?
Yes.
Mr. Kroll, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On to consideration to approve CES contractor ESA Construction, Inc. as the contractor for the early college high school portable classroom project for $988,942.77.
Just testing a portable, right?
Miss Nips is gonna share a little bit about this.
Okay.
But kind of giving a summary here on what we're gonna actually be doing. There are some, obviously, moved some portables. We did have some restrooms that were ready to be redone on the staff side, in addition to some site enhancements. Here's what I'll share, and I know Terry's gonna share more about this. Anytime you bring a new portable in and put a new place in, and I think many on the board know this, you're then subject to all the new code that wasn't there in the last location, so you have to make those upgrades. So Ms. Terry, I'll let you share anything additional that you'd like to share, and then we'll stand for any questions.
Madam President, members of the board, superintendent, as he said, we're looking at moving 2 portables. They've outgrown what they've already got. They're using their cafeteria area for 2 classrooms separated, so we need to give them more space. But with that said, it's gonna cost a little bit of money to move it. We've got 1 portable that's at Central Cafeteria that we're gonna move, and there's 1 extra portable at Smith. With that said, though, the portables are not in the greatest of shape, so we're gonna have to move them and basically gut them and update everything, and we'll put HVAC and fire alarms and everything else in them. Where he gets it to size, but where it's at right now, we're locked in on one side because the I can't remember, this Kingdom of the Sun is on one side, so we're gonna have to put the portables on the side where the auxiliary gym is, which means we're gonna have to move the road. And we're gonna have to rip up pavement and everything else, so this is not gonna be a small project, it's got a lot of moving parts, but that's where
It's
we're at.
needed, yeah.
Yeah, and then inside the original building, there's 2, the bathrooms are, I wouldn't have looked at them, they're in pretty bad shape, so we need to upgrade those since we're there, so. But I'll stand for questions if you guys have any.
Any questions or comments by the board? Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Crowe?
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Johnson,
Yes.
Mrs. Paez,
Yes.
Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
Mrs. Crumley,
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
On to adoption of policies. Superintendent and Mr. Turner.
Madam President, we have 3 policies that we had discussed in a first or second reading. We can take action on each of these individually, just in case we don't want to pass them as a package. The first one is the public participation in board meetings. Charles, if you want to click that, I'll kind of remind us what we talked about. We had a discussion about the major change of this was 2 or 3 minutes for public participation. I know we had said the last board meeting, hey, 3 minutes is fine. However, I sort of missed out on a little bit of important context that Mr. Turner had shared with me and I had forgotten. So I just want to let Mr. Turner share a little bit of context relative to the old policy. And then again, if we don't want to, we can just table this and not do anything with it if you choose to, or we can modify it. Mr. Turner.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent W. If you recall back in December, we attended a conference where we were presented to by our attorneys at Walsh Gallegos. And they had brought up a good point about public comment and the freedom of speech and how at times we may not want to have a very long slot for public speakers. So that was their recommendation. So that way we could make sure, people didn't get to put our teachers in a bad spot or even our administrators or board members, for too long. And so my recommendation to the superintendent was that we change this policy back to the 2 minutes that it originally was in the old policies. And I stand for questions.
Any question or comment? Thoughts? My preference is to leave it at 3 minutes. I know that I understand the concern about having too much time to be negative or degrading or what have you, but since I've been here, that hasn't been an issue. And I also think
Sorry.
yeah, no, knock away, it's fine.
Sorry.
But even if that were the case, I mean, I'm gonna probably always land on the side of allowing for constitutional rights versus not. But that's just my personal opinion. I know not every attorney feels that way, but I do, so.
Just being nice, yeah. I tend to agree with Ashley. I feel like one extra minute is not such a compromise. I mean, I feel like giving people an ability to speak and to say what they feel and us to listen is probably the way to go.
Because you still have the ability to shorten it if we have it.
If there's time constraints, like if we had 50 people come to tell us how horrible we are.
And in those trainings, they've also given different verbiage things that you could say if
Right.
someone were to be out of line. That we do have rules about what they can and can't.
But I mean, I think if somebody wanted to come and tell us how horrible we were, then
Yeah,
they can
we
have 3
to,
minutes
but
to
they're
do
not
it.
gonna
That's
say anything
fine.
about
I want to hear that.
That's fine. Yeah.
Most of the table.
Anything, Mr. Orozco?
Mr. Ashton,
No.
You're good, huh? You wanna be told you're not good?
been told plenty of times, plenty of times.
And you're
I don't sleep, I don't sleep any different. Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we table adoption B-2150.
I'll second that.
Mr. Orozco?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Oh, so I didn't hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, well,
Go ahead, Mr. Kroll.
Mrs. Johnson? Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mrs. Crumley?
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
Okay, Madam President, our next one, we also discussed as well about suspension and expulsion. If you do recall, this is a long policy. However, the only change that we were considering was at the end about what's called the Hearing Review Authority. After, again, here in Deming, I serve as the hearing officer. And then, of course, after the hearing officer makes their decision, state statute and policy allows for that decision by the hearing authority to be appealed. In our NMSBA policies, it says they're appealed to a hearing review authority, which is a three-member committee, a three-member group of community members under certain parameters that the board appoints in an open meeting. However, in state statute, the people that are listed as the hearing authority is the board. Okay, so sort of the difference in our policy is if we choose to keep the policy as is, then we would table it, right? And then in our next meeting, we'd have to pick that community review hearing authority. Okay, if you choose to accept the changes to this policy, what it will do is it will take out the review hearing authority element, and it will insert you all as the board as the review hearing authority to discipline decisions of the superintendent. So those are the kind of the options today. If you'd like us to bring back additional options, again, a motion to table would, allow us to bring, look at it again and bring back additional options to you.
Discussion among the board?
You guys know where I stand from the last time. I think we need to hear it, so.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Do you have a motion regarding this policy?
I guess how do you want me to make the motion that the board gets to hear it?
Just Mr. Kroll, I think a good motion here would be
To adopt it.
to adopt the amendments as presented.
I'll make a motion to adopt the amendment as presented.
I second.
Mr. Kroll?
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mr. Orozco?
Yes.
Mrs. Crumley?
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
Madam President, our final policy this evening, again, we have visited this prior. This is to bring our practice in alignment with policy, as per policy in general on many elements of finance. Those are approved by the board. For example, you can make exceptions. You have made an exception for me to approve contracts on your behalf of under 60,000. And if they're over 60,000, they come to you. Currently, our policy has listed that all donations, big or small, should be coming to the school board. However, our practice that we've had in place is those small donations come to the superintendent, and the bigger donations come to you. So this is just modifying the policy for you to authorize me to accept any donations that are under $5,000. which is most of what comes across my desk. And of course, you retain this policy, the modification amendment would retain the right for anything over $5,000 or over to come to the board for approval before I accept. So this is just getting some policy language alignment to our practices.
Any questions or comments by the board? Have a motion?
I make a motion to adopt the policy K0850, public schools donations to schools, public gifts and donations to schools.
Mr. Kroll?
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Johnson?
Yeah.
Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Crumley?
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Crow, yes.
On to consideration and approval of adoption for math instructional materials. Dr. Oldham?
Oldham's gonna help us with this. It's math adoption season. So yay, math.
Hey, math is cool.
Math is cool.
It's cool.
Math is
That-
cool, and
math-
physics is fun,
That's right, Doctor.
and I'm a reading teacher.
Okay, all right. Dr. Oldham, if you want to share a little bit about our math instructional materials process and decision.
Sure. So the process started back in October when I took the instructional coaches to an event put on by the REC at Smith School, where we reviewed a plethora of different options for mathematics instructional materials. And what we did as a group was we narrowed it down to a few and then had conversation with the admin team about some of our non-negotiables, things that we were looking for that we wanted to make sure, like the assessment pieces, making sure that that things like manipulatives would be available, because I know that's a thing that has come up before. After we narrowed it down to a few, we got quotes for those to make sure that we would be able to afford them. Some feedback that I've received in previous adoptions is that they've been shown things and that they've wanted and then not been able to get them because they were too expensive. So we tried to mitigate that by asking for quotes beforehand and using that to further eliminate sets of instructional materials. One of the things that we did differently this year was, instead of creating a committee of 6 teachers from each school, we put processes in place to open it up to all teachers to be able to provide feedback. Because again, some of the feedback that we've gotten from teachers is that they felt like their voices weren't heard. And so by opening it up and making the committee any teacher who chooses to participate, we were trying to mitigate some of that feedback to make sure that people felt like the things that they're seeing are read and represented in the final decision. So what we did differently was we set up a central location for all of the materials. Teachers could come, and our instructional coaches and our principals helped us get teachers to that location to view all of the materials. And then we put a form, or we did presentations that were recorded so that if teachers were not able to make it to the presentations because they occurred after school hours, they had an opportunity to view those presentations of the 2 sets of materials for elementary, K8, and the 2 sets of materials for 9-12. And then a form was sent out to all teachers K8, and then the math teachers all teachers K5 and math teachers 6-12. So that they could provide their feedback. That rubric was adopted from one created by the National Council of Teachers Mathematics, severely condensed down from 100 and some pages to approximately 20 questions per set of instructional materials. And then the review and the voting commenced, and at the end, both K8 and 9-12 voted not unanimously, but for the majority in for Savas to continue the use of Savas Envision plus mathematics for our instructional materials. Anything else that I needed to tell you?
You have the cost here on the on the slide. That was the estimated cost for subs. I do want to say I want to say let me say some positive. You know, Mr. Adcock has been great as a CFO. Typically, we have to wait until July 1 to order this material, and then it comes in really late for teachers. Joe has really, speaking with Executive Director Reinhardt, hey, if we can move our process up a little bit, and that's what we're going to try this year. If we can get this approved, we may be able to buy it out of this year's budget and actually be able to give teachers material, at least the teacher editions material to take home in June to start and have the summer to plan, so they're not waiting until 2 weeks before school. So we're going to try to get in a process as long as Joe counts the numbers, counts them good, that we can purchase this material. We might even try to get this moved up one more month next year to March, right? So we can get everything in, and that will really help with the preparation of our teachers. So I appreciate Mr. Adcock saying, hey, this I think is something we can give a try to. So
it also allows me to schedule PD earlier, which means that not only do they understand how to use the materials, but it doesn't have to be right before school starts.
For that kind of money, we should be able to, they should hand deliver those things. Mr. Adcock, we should make that a requirement.
Madam President, members of the board, superintendent, the reason that we are able to do this is our instructional materials over the last several years has been part of SEG. Prior to that, it was in a different fund, so we had to wait for that to come in. Because Deming has been in a good financial position and has some cash balances, we're able to, for this year, use some of these cash balances to purchase this in advance so that next year's instructional material money that comes into the SEG can go for the next year's adoption, and so that we can get on an earlier cycle so that we can assist the teachers in getting prepared for school.
One comment on your slide on the chart. Did you create those? Whoever did swapped some colors, and my jaw dropped because when it went to the point about like if it was easily implemented, the color swapped, so it looked like it was not gonna be. And I was like, why are you even considering it? And so then I had to really look at this.
So I'll take that feedback and give it to Microsoft.
I mean, both great chunks. So I was just like, it just caught me off guard, but it got my attention very well.
Well, and to speaking of the charts in particular, one of the other things I meant to tell you was one of the things we're trying to also do is be more transparent. So as the voting was happening, I sent email updates to principals so they knew how many teachers from their school had participated and where they were leaving. And then I also shared the same summaries that I shared with you all with the principals so they can share that with their teachers as well. Because sometimes the teachers have reported they don't feel like they're being listened to. And so by showing them this is literally what you all said, it's like we are.
And then we still had a school that had nobody participate, correct?
Yes.
That's what it was like. Okay.
Yes. And yes.
And with this, we're getting the bells and whistles. We're not out anything. We're, oh man, 3 months from now, we wish we would have.
You asked me the science.
Yes, ma'am. It doesn't make it, to me, it doesn't make any sense. It's like buying a car with no tires. Like,
Yeah.
why are we in that realm? You know what I mean?
And
If we're gonna do it, let's do it.
Math is the manipulative kits, and the manipulative kits with Savas are included by teacher. So you won't see it necessarily reflected in the quote, because we don't pay extra for them.
Nice.
At least we're getting something.
Something.
There's no coupons, is there? Discount codes?
Teachers editions are free.
Cool.
Great. Good, great. We're in the wrong business. Yeah. Sell books.
Any other questions or comments or emotions of the board? Have a motion?
I make the motion that we approve the adoption for the math instructional material for Dr. Oldham's.
I'll second that.
Mr. Kroll?
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Johnson?
Yeah.
Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mr. Orozco?
Yes.
Mrs. Crumley?
Yes.
Mr. Kroll, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Olber.
On to approval of bilingual multicultural education program funding application. Mr. Wyman and Mr. Chavez.
Mr. Chavez is gonna help us on the bilingual, and then we'll have a whole team of people help us with the. Mr. Wyman's gonna help us with the next item, and then a whole team for the last part of the program. So you have in your packet here the most full version of the BMEP, which should reflect also within the what's in the presentation. Mr. Chavez.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Woolwood, first of all, thank you for allowing me to kill a tree and give me paper versions of part of the presentation. I'll go into more of it when we're on the federal side. But in regards to our multilingual, bilingual education programs, you'll see here on this chart here, six of our schools do offer a dual language program. Some of our secondary schools are going through a transitional phase this next year, where we're going from a 3-hour program to a 2 and a 1 hour program. This was an effort to vertically align what we're offering all kids in schools and to really streamline that the vision of the dual and what are we trying to accomplish and trying to come together as a team so kids are consistently in the same program throughout our programs from 6 on up. There is an alignment of what we're offering in our elementary schools as well, and how we're gonna attack that next year is kind of exciting. So in dual language, you'll see that our dual language numbers is 604. Those are our primary grades that are in our 3-hour programs. And then it converts now. So we have a total of 1,138 projected students that will be in our multicultural and in our bilingual programs for next year. Probably Mr. Turner, would you mind going back one to the first one? Thank you. So we do have 2 schools that will have a 50-50 program, which is Columbus Elementary and RST, which is a change for Columbus since they were a 90-10, 80-20 program. They're now going to a 50-50. Columbus Elementary prior, this school year, it was 50-50 from first grade on up. But now we're moving that down to kindergarten, so kindergarten will start 50% in English and 50% in Spanish. Baton Elementary, there is a change too. They're in a 90-10 program, and we're phasing them into more of an 80-20-75 program, and really helping the kindergarten teacher of how that program is going to look, and helping them with their ELD classes and making sure that English time for our English learners is very, very specific as to what strategies and what curriculum that we're using for our kiddos. So very exciting to see the progress in our programs and us making these adaptations. Other than that, I think that's all I have for dual language.
Any questions or comment on this topic?
I do have a question. Many of the kids, especially at the middle school and the high school, are students who are coming in directly from another country. And so the reducing the time at the high school and the middle school, how is that going to affect kids? Because they were getting 3 hours before, am I right?
Correct. So one thing that we're doing, Ms. Perez, is we're separating our ELD blocks for our kiddos that are new to the country. So what we've done in the past in secondary is that we've double coded classrooms. So they'd attend their English class and it would count for 2. Well, now we've officially separated that. So if a child comes into our schools that's below a 2.4 on access or below, they have to attend a 1062 class, which is for a newcomer. It'll be a smaller number of kiddos with the teacher in that section, and also a 1063 class. So they'll be having two classes attending to their needs at their level in any secondary class from 6 through.
So they'll be receiving the same support that they were receiving before?
They'll be receiving more
support.
They won't be in their home language as much,
right?
But we have those supports, and they'll still be having their Spanish native for Spanish speakers in secondary, so they'll still be getting their Spanish language every day.
The other question I had is that Columbus was a 90, what was it last year?
90/10
And you said it's a 50/50 this year?
next year, starting in July.
Okay, and so was it stepped down or is it a large?
Well, we kind of hit that step. That's a good question because we were already 50/50 at first grade for many years, even when I was principal. I mean, we'd go from more of a 90/10 to get the kids acclimated in their home language because we do get the population that we serve requires them to, we want to build them as much as we can because that is the goal. We want them proficient in both languages. But we give them that extra little dose of Spanish in kindergarten, but we're seeing now that they need a little more scripted, the little more in English taught with intentionality and having a program for them, so we can foster that and push the program forward up. So when they go to sixth grade, they'll be more successful, and once they're taking the assessment in their second language by fourth grade. In fourth grade, they have to take the test in English, so we want to make sure that they're prepared for that.
Okay, I appreciate that. The other question I had is, what's the difference between a maintenance program? Because it says maintenance and then the others, are, I'm going to read it, but, yeah.
We chose the maintenance program for secondary, because it's very, very similar to Heritage and what the expectations are, but maintenance lent itself more to our population. So we wanted our kiddos to, because it was a dual language program, right? They were all in a 3-hour program. So the maintenance does target, it maintains like it kind of sounds, it maintains the language that they're already accustomed to. So we're maintaining that by providing them the Spanish language arts in a 2-hour program. Once they exit out of L status, then what we do is they'll go from a 2-hour program to a 1-hour program, but they still maintain, they're still in a dual language program, but they're down to 1 hour. And they no longer have to take ELD. They're now mainstreamed into the regular English classes.
Thank you, Armando. I appreciate the education.
Sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Kroll?
Yes. Mrs. Johnson,
Yeah.
Mrs. Paez,
Yes.
Mrs. Crumley,
Yes.
Mr. Orozco.
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
On to approval of IDEAB application for school year 26-27.
Madam President, give Ms. Reinhardt the day off. And so Mr. Wyman's gonna assist us with this. I'm gonna pass out to you just so you can look at it kind of halfway through. Here is a kind of little summary of what the a little summary of page 7 on what IDEAB funding is, just as a refresher. In general, Mr. Wyman may cover that. And then he'll additionally cover a summary of what we put in our application. You have the handout with you. So and then just to also know too, the state launched last year what's called a unified application that has all of our title funds plus IDEAB. So you're going to see lots of people come up to explain the different title funds, IDEAB, but it's all an application that's very tiny and not downloadable from the state that Mr. Chavez puts in. So Mr. Wyman, if you want to tell us a little bit about IDEAB for Deming this coming school year.
Yes, sir. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Wagamuth, tonight as part of the unified application, we have before you the proposed IDEAB budget. My summary tonight is going to provide an overview of the proposed allocations for the IDEAB grant funding to support our special education services. It is important to note that this proposed budget is largely consistent with the budget that was approved and is we're working under currently for the 25-26 school year. The primary focus remains on providing and maintaining high quality staffing levels, ensuring legal compliance, and providing necessary technology, equipment, curriculum tools to support our students' success. There are 2 sections, right? So you'll see up here, if you look, IDEA Part B 611, which is our main, that's our main K through 12, pre-K through 12 actually fund. We in that budget this year have about $1.3 million. And so looking at that, we're looking at a large portion of that being in personnel and salaries, as well as some compliance and essential tools for kind of the broader student population as well. In personnel and salaries, right, we know over the last several years, the state has been gracious and given a lot of raises over the past years. It might look a little different next year, but those salaries have increased kind of what they've taken out of this budget over the last 5-6 years. So, and so we're looking at about just under $700,000 for salaries that would cover the special education department staff, much of that, as well as educational assistants and some other staff members to ensure IEP compliance and behavior intervention support as well. Obviously, when we pay the salaries, we also do have to pay the benefits piece. So that would be an additional about $260,000 associated salary benefits for those positions that would be paying for the IDMD. Additionally, there's about $121,000 spent or proposed to be spent on operations and technology. And so about $40,000 of that is for documentation support, busing services. So if we have students that need individual routing, individual services, orientation mobility services, sometimes we'll bus those students into the town and provide them with some assistance in working with orientation mobility services as well as some needed hotspots throughout the year for virtual learning for students with disabilities. About 80,000 of that is looking at specialized software licenses such as SpedTrack, which is a compliance program that we use to develop and draft our IEPs, evaluations, etc. TerraLogic, which is actually shifting to help me out, Sarah. Parchment. Thank you. Sorry about that. And then LRP, Special Ed Connection, which is an online PD program that the district has access to as well as for, overall kind of data management, instruction, professional development. Additionally, there's a line for PD budgeted for about 51,000. This funding allows the special ed directors and staff to attend special ed specific academies, law conferences, and project search training. I will note next weekend, there's actually a team of people, and part of that is being paid for out of IDMB that will be attending a national special ed law conference in New Orleans. So that's coming out of this as well. Each year, we do have to allocate a portion by the number of students that the charter has. So for that next year, our pass-through component will be about $44,000 for charter school special education staff. And that, I believe this year is an EA that they've budgeted that for, a partial salary for a special ed EA there as well. We've also used this to purchase curriculum and supplies, such as N2Y, which is the current curriculum that we're using for our students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. So those cognitively low students. Spire for at-risk students with reading. That's a high-quality Orton Gillingham-based reading instruction program, as well as other essential supplies, equipment, specialized equipment for sometimes we have students that require some OT equipment, PT equipment, also mobility equipment, such as lifts, chair lifts. We have some students that do require those. Some equipment to support students with hearing impairment, vision and impairment, blindness. We do purchase several things each year out of that budget. And then there is the smaller portion of the budget, that's 619, and that is specifically for the pre-K age students. That is typically a much lower funding source. You'll see that we're getting about a total of 23,000, and that's going to be for a partial salary and benefits for a special ed EA at my little school. So overall, we have about 1.24 million plus indirect costs for a total of about $1.3 million. I will note that on the 6th, Mr. Chavez, myself, and Mrs. Reinhardt did meet with parents throughout the district. We brought in some stakeholders to discuss the budget and gather some input from those stakeholders. And I think it was a really meaningful time with them. And then finally, one of the components that we do have to answer, and we're going to look through just the kind of the budget pieces real quickly, but we do each year receive from Wash Gallegos via the Southwest REC an updated procedures manual that gives us a side-by-side look of the IDEA, state law, and then local district policy as well. And so we just received that this week. And so those updates are being reviewed, and we're going to make sure that we're in line with those local practices that we need to do. And so we anticipate those being in front of you guys next month. And so with that, I think you were gonna just kind of quickly go through. The application is much shorter than it used to be as part of the unified application. There are assurances that we have to go through. And what's that? Charter. Yeah, and charter, which I shared with, about $44,000. So that, the way that works is you'll see they take a portion by the number of eligible students that they have at the charter school. They divide our total allocation. They give them a proportionate share. Yes, and then there are several compliance pieces. One of those is we have to have, if you want to scroll down, the policies and procedures is what I was talking about with Walsh Gallegos. We're gonna, again, bring that to you guys next month. We did have that parent meeting on the 6th. So we have to upload that as well, which is there. And then we have the governing board agenda and minutes from today. And then finally, I want to say the last thing after the board signatures is going to be the 9-month letter, right? Yeah, and so we do have students that have blindness and vision impairment throughout the school district. And so we have to show that we are making our due diligence, be able to provide them with the services and support that we need, or the students need rather, I apologize, to ensure that they are growing academically. And so each year, rather than going with the kind of national bank of a group that will help us, there's the New Mexico School for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and we do partner with them each year. So we do have to upload a letter. We've already got that here as well. And we do have a joint powers agreement that's currently good through 2028. If any of you'd like to see that, actually, or, so with that, I'll stand pretty.
Questions? Do you have a motion for this application?
I make that motion.
I'll second that.
Mr. Kroll?
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Johnson?
Yeah.
Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mr. Orozco?
Yes.
Mrs. Crumley?
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
On to approval of federal programs application for school year 26-27.
Madam President, members of the board, get your magnifying glasses ready to look at this. This is a variety of funds in here. Just a little point of clarification, right? That application we did for the BMEP, that was an NMPED application to help support our language learners. Title III is also a federal portion of our federal grant to also support the English language acquisition for that similar group. So when it comes to supervisory and expertise on this application, there's 5 titles here. If you wanted a summary of what they were, they're on the front page of that handout I just handed you. But Mr. Chavez is our expert in Title I and Title III and Title IV. And then Deputy Superintendent Nips helps manage Title II and Title V in this application. So you'll be hearing from both of them with a little summary of what our activities are. Mr. Chavez.
Thank you, sir. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent, I'd like to start off with, like Mr. W said, there is 6 different grants within this part of the application. And if you notice, each piece has its own budget. This unified application, I'll start off with this. It's been a great transition going from a paper SharePoint to this system where they lack, and you saw the email I sent. I'm like, I need this printed, and they're like, sorry, not available. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna print that so that way everybody can see, because it's, and then trying to get you guys a printable version. I hope you all were able to read it. But we did have an increase in I want to start with our Title I. Title I is the big pot. It's about $3.1 million this year. That is an increase of about $600,000 from the year prior. So we have a little bit more money. That means a little bit more funding will go to the school sites itself to support them in areas where things have been lacking, and help them in different areas as well. Title I is focused on we get this money because of the number of low income students that we have in Luna County. And so we are a 100% federally funded district. So that means all of our schools, all of our kids qualify for Title So every school gets an allocation depending on the number of kiddos that are in need. It's called, it's a qualifier. So we use the direct cert number that our district reports to the state. What helps us with the unified application now is that it's taken away all the manual figuring out of all the digital stuff. It's all in there for us now. So you don't have to stress out about that piece. It gives you exactly how many students that qualify. So that did help us with some of the work. We do have, and I, depending on how much detail I give you, I can break up each grant individually, but I wanna say, we gave about $25,000 to our McKinney-Vento students for the year, because we didn't qualify for the grant, at the last, round. 3 years ago, they didn't allocate Devon Public Schools with an allocation. So we do leverage funding from Title I to support our homeless population. So 25,000 goes to them. We do put some money aside for professional development. And I am going into the expenditure piece because I feel like that's probably the easiest way to attack this one. Yep. So about $75,000 for professional development in any area that we feel that'll help our most at-risk students. It's covered there. We do cover some of our district people that focus on attendance and our intake people that support our homeless families, that we they do the interviews and meet with kids every day. So some of our mentors and liaisons that are at the school sites are funded through Title I as well at the district level. Then also we have, once the schools get their allocations, each school has a set amount of people that they pay out of that are above and beyond to help our kiddos in the school sites that are paid out of their allocations. Let's see. I'll move on to Title I Part C. Title I Part C is focusing on our families that work in agriculture. So the old title, if you think Title I Part C, it's the new label for our migrant farm workers. They're trying to stay away from using the word migrant in PED, and they're now called Title I Part C. So what we do with that, we got an allocation of $62,000, and it's gone down quite a bit throughout the years. It's actually interesting that it's dropped so much, because we do have the second largest group in the state, close to 200 students that fall under this umbrella. I have 2 full-time liaisons that support in the schools and are ensuring that they have what they need, filling that social work gap and providing any kind of barrier that they might have. We try to help them as much as possible. Educationally, they're on our alert system to make sure that they're not falling through the cracks. But we typically have between 95 and 100% of our migrant seniors that graduate, and I'm very proud of this fact, that graduate from high school, that start their junior year, we graduate them by the end. And it's because we work so hard with them one-on-one, and we mentor them and we help them with what they need so they can be successful in school. Now, it's fun to be the leader of that great feat there. I'll jump over to my pieces and then I'll turn it over to Ms. Nips. Are you okay with that? Okay. Title III, like Mr. W said, we do get about $200,000 from this grant. This pays typically for 2 FTEs in our district. One is our content specialist that assists me in the department. She's kind of like my feet on the ground, helping me with PLCs in schools. She helps me with just compliance pieces for the state to ensure that our classrooms do have. We've worked a lot this year on making sure that all the schools, our dual language programs, have an ELD curriculum in the secondary, and now we're working really closely with braiding funding with Title I to ensuring that we can give all schools the ELD curriculum that they need for that specified time, so we can hit those compliant pieces. We worked really hard with that this year, and that's Mrs. Diaz, and I'll shout out to her because she worked really hard. And then also we have a mentor that's paid out of Title III. That individual focuses on any of our kiddos that exit access. So part of her job is to ensure that, because we have to monitor them officially for 2 years. So she goes from school to school. We have a list of kids that are, if they're slipping, we want to make sure that, you know, they've already exited ELD, so now they're in mainstream. So we want to make sure that they stay at that high level of rigor and that they're being successful in school. So this person just ensures why are their grades low? You know, what can we do to help you to get them back on track? And they typically are really, really bright kids, so they jump back on track. And we find a lot of success with that position. All right, and and Title IV is our equity grant. We do pay for some of our McKinney-Vento and attendance intake people. I pay for 2 of them. And one other DTS person, so it's an attendance McKinney-Vento liaison that comes out of that grant. This next year, we did budget for, which is really exciting, working alongside, where's Mr. Wyman? Well, Mr. Wyman, he's gonna give the counselors a chunk of money for professional development out of the grant. And now with Mr. Diaz, an allocation for CTE programs for the younger grades, younger than secondary. So we can give them some allocations to beef up their CTE programs in middle school. Right, that's mine.
Any questions about titles 1, 3, or 4 for Mr. Chavez?
I did have a question on the grant proposal, the unified proposal. Is that going to be every year? Because I know that McKinney-Vento is 3 years and then my grant is usually 3 years.
Migrants are yearly.
Yearly.
Yes, ma'am. So migrants every year. So that's in the unified.
But the unified is gonna be every year or it's gonna be a couple of years?
The unified is yearly.
Yearly.
Yes.
Okay.
So McKinney-Vento is every 3 years. It doesn't come up here, so I still think it's a separate entity.
Okay.
They haven't migrated it in yet.
Okay.
Because not everybody gets it.
Right.
Yeah, so we're surprised we didn't get it. Historically, we've done it forever. You did it.
yeah.
You used to do that application for many years. And for some reason, even though we have over 300 students that are labeled McKinney-Vento in our district, I was kind of surprised that we weren't allocated that.
And the migrant funding is going down.
And
So,
migrant funding is.
yeah, so quickly and so much.
Yes.
It's amazing.
So leveraging Title I and those, in order for us to continue the services the way we provide them.
Right.
We have to rate funding and ensure that we're still in compliance using federal money.
Thank you for everything.
Yes, yes.
Any additional questions for titles 1, 3, or 4 with Mr. Chavez?
Very good.
Ms. Nips, tell us about 2 and 5.
Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Wolfman, Superintendent Wolfman, I've got Title II. Title II focuses on development of new teachers. We utilize that money to Donna and her team. They've done a really good job of taking over the new teacher mentorship program, and we provide stipends for the teachers and for their mentor teachers so that they can have support. That's a 3-year program, so we fund that. Also through there, we fund stipends for our bilingual teachers who are utilizing their bilingual endorsement. Teachers that are using an endorsement in a class that requires it. And also for our SPED teachers, we provide stipends for them. It's extra work, mainly for bilingual. There's some, I don't know if you probably speak to this, but there's a lot of extra work for bilingual teachers because there's not a lot of bilingual materials. So, but so that's the majority. We also use those funds for recruitment. It's getting better. Yes, it is getting better. The other grant I manage is Title V, which is the rural low income, what all that stands for. We did get a little bump. What was it, like 30,000 in Title II? Title V, we did take a little cut in that, but what we use that fund for is we provide stipends for that one for our teachers that have a TESOL endorsement that are using it in their classrooms, also to support that extra work that they use. And then the bulk of that is actually used for tuition reimbursement for alternative teachers. The teachers are on an alternative licensure that have to take classes, so we pay back their tuition.
Any questions for Title II or 5 of Deputy Superintendent Nips?
No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a motion to address this application.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Mr. Kroll?
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Johnson? Yeah. Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Crumley?
Yes.
Mr. Pro, yes, and Mr. Roscoe?
Yes.
Always throws it off.
Well, cassette.
Board announcements and requests for items. Are there any board member requests for items or information for our next meeting? No. Okay. The board will be having our next regular meeting at the Emmett Shockley Administration Building on May 21st, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make that motion.
I'll second that.
Mr. Kroll?
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Crumley?
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yeah.
Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.